Hey guys, I hope you're all doing alright, and after having somewhat recovered from the events of the 2021 Russian Grand Prix, we are back once more, and this time for a review of the 2021 Turkish Grand Prix. I'm joined once again by Siraj. Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so let's jump straight in with the review. So, prior to the weekend, Lewis Hamilton was set with a 10-place penalty for a new internal combustion engine, and Carlos Sainz went straight to the back with the new power units. These were, of course, strategic penalties taken by the teams in order to help their championship fights respectively. However, this did not stop Carlos Sainz from taking part in qualifying. Suraj, why do you do this?
Well, I believe he just did this in the end of it, Ricciardo actually ended up getting knocked out, so I think it was just to help Ferrari in their fight with McLaren.
Then the chances of Daniel Ricciardo getting knocked out in Q1 they're quite high actually, but are quite low. So I mean, I still don't understand why they did this. I guess Sainz could have made one of the McLaren drivers get knocked out again. They would gain one position again as he was sent to the back.
Yeah, of course, like the Haas for, 2-3 years, it seemed like quite firmly the slowest car on the track, and I think Mac has just done a very good job to get it into Q2.
However, unfortunately, out in Q1 was Daniel Ricciardo, like we mentioned before, which, of course, coming off the back of his Monza victory, maybe he's back to his selling self. You don't know. On to Q2, and George Russell would have nearly made it had he not run wide at the final turn. He was out along with Vesh, Schumi, Sainz and Ocon. Sorry, anything to add on that?
Yeah, well, I think we've gotten a bit used to, the Williams of George Russell getting into Q3, the Williams getting some points, but you can't expect it to happen every single time, and I think this was just one time it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, let's just come back to earth here on this one. Of course, he is in a Williams car, so you can't expect him to just suddenly be beating the Mercedes, which he did at Imola and to an extent at Belgium, but then again those were stand-up performances. On to Q3, and it was Lewis Hamilton who took the pole, but he was starting 11th due to his 10-place penalty. Bottas was P1 ahead of Verstappen. Leclerc rounds off the top 3 with Gasly P4, Alonso P5, Perez P6, Norris P7, Stroll P8, Sainz P9. Of course, this was a pretty disappointing session for some, i.e. Perez and Norris, who I feel like should be able to be beating up the likes of Gasly and Alonso, who of course ended up ahead of them come the end of qualifying. Sorry, any standouts for you this qualifying session?
If I can say two, I definitely have to say a massive well done to Leclerc. As he was doing in 2020, he just manages to pull out these magical performances, and Ferrari, it's of course quicker than it was last year, but it's still not the tippity top car, and he's just doing a very good job to do that. And I guess same with Pierre Gasly, his car is not one that gets into P4. It's at the start of the season, it was rare to see that car getting into the top 10 shootout, and to put it in P4 was a very good job from him.
Indeed. Onto the race, and there was early drama, as a 3-wide moment into turn 1 meant that Fernando Alonso from his amazing starting position was sent spinning. Of course, we later saw that Perez tried to gain as many positions as possible on the start and made it 3 wide between himself, Gasly and Alonso. Gasly in the end got a bit squeezed and ended up sending Alonso into the spin, and he also got a 5-second penalty, so it basically jeopardized both Gasly and Alonso's races. Siraj?
Yeah, I think honestly, looking at what happened, I think it was a bit unfair for Gasly to get that 5-second time penalty. Looking at it, he just got a bit of understeer into turn 1, but got a 5-second penalty that mildly ruined his race, and it completely messed up Alonso's one.
Yeah, of course, Perez came off the winner this as he ended up P4 and then later P3 at the checkered flag. Spoiler. I think everyone would have seen what happened. Anyway, moving on, further down the back of the grid, Carlos Sainz ended up gaining nearly 6 or 7 places at the start, which I feel like was mega from him, considering Turkey is a pretty narrow track, and also the conditions were incredibly treacherous, and he ended up making really ballsy moves on a lot of drivers, and yeah, I mean, he's just showing why he probably deserves to hit at Ferrari for longer than Ferrari want him to. Don't you think so, Raj?
Yeah, of course, that start, it was amazing. His whole race in general was very good, but, you know, as you said, some very bold overtakes at the start, and, you know, finishing where he did at the end at the checkered flag, he really deserved it.
Yeah, of course, he ended up finishing P8, and I feel like those 4 points would mean a lot to him eventually. I mean, who knows? I'm not an F1 driver. However, it wasn't all sunshine for Sainz, as he made some contact with Vettel as in his battle for P10. Of course, Vettel ended up having a weekend to forget further on. But yeah, I thought it was well highlighting. As for Hamilton, he started from P11, and it was Yuki Tsunoda who gave a surprisingly good fight, as it took Hamilton quite a few laps to overtake him. But I feel like the main defender in this opening sort of stint, as it were, was Sergio Perez, as he managed to keep Hamilton behind and side by side for the whole of Sector 3 and part of the start of lap 35, and it was really good racing, don't you think, Suraj?
Yeah, it was really good from both of the two drivers, you know, giving each other enough room, but not too much to let them get overtaken. Yeah, as you said, they fought for like pretty much the whole of the last sector. I even remember seeing that Perez almost got pushed into the pit lane in their fight. Then yeah, it continued on to lap 35, and yeah, it was just a really good fight to watch.
Yeah. Anyway, at this point, we also got to see a few pit stops coming from the likes of Perez, and so on. Alright, I'll do that bit. Moving on, we start to see some pit stops from a few people on. Sebastian Vettel tried the gamble to go onto mediums, but flopped and ended up dropping to P19 as he had to pit a second time for Int, not to mention the countless number of spins he had on his incredibly short medium stint. However, some people were planning to go to the end on one set of Inters, like Leclerc, Hamilton and Ocon. Of course, Hamilton and Leclerc ended up pitting and fell down the order in order to make way for P2 and 3. I mean, Saraj, do you think they could have gone to the end without losing too much ground, or do you think that pit stop was absolutely necessary?
I mean, I think Leclerc could have probably made it to the end, considering the fact he wasn't, for the whole race, he wasn't pushing his tires like extremely hard. Like, he was just holding up there. And then Hamilton, he was making so many overtakes, he was getting caught up behind so many people. I think he should have pitted. And yeah, so I think Leclerc could have maybe just snuck through to the end.
Well, in my opinion, I think the opposite. I feel like for Leclerc, he should have stopped because he was getting passed by Bottas, Verstappen and Perez, and had he not stopped, I feel like he would have been overtaken by the likes of Hamilton, Gasly, maybe even Norris. We never know. But Hamilton, on the other hand, he was in a pretty good P3 position, just behind Verstappen. Of course, Perez was closing on him, but this is Lewis Hamilton with well. I mean, he managed to go from lap 8 to 58 last season on one set of Inters, so I feel like he could have done something similar this year. Of course, Mercedes decided to take the gamble, and I don't think it paid off, as Hamilton ended up P5 by the end, meaning the gap between him and Verstappen He's now 6 points in Verstappen's favour. However, on to more happy news. Valtteri Bottas managed to get his first win in 2021 and first win since Sochi 2020, which, I mean, of course, this win was a long time coming. I mean, Siraj, do you think this one was sort of handed to him, or do you think he really had to earn it?
I mean, I think he really had to earn it, you know, I mean, the majority of the season, he hasn't really been qualifying up there with Hamilton. So this weekend he managed to qualify up there with Hamilton, which ended up being a pole position for him. And he had just had a very good start, you know. His whole race was good, and when he did go overtaken, he would always fight back. So I think he really deserved this one.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he did start on pole position, but then again, the conditions were extremely treacherous, and of course, Bottas, showing how good he is at driving in these sort of conditions, really showed, as he just sort of breezed away from like Verstappen, Perez, and the rest of the pack. In other news, it was Esteban Ocon who was the only driver to make the whole race without making a single pit stop, which I feel like was really cool of him. You didn't really expect the Alpine of all cars to make it to the end without making a single stop. Yeah, Siraj, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, not really. 58 laps on the same set of tyres. It's definitely not easy. And I've actually seen pictures after the race that his tyres were literally completely gone. So, I mean, yeah, it would have been difficult, you know, he would have lost so much grip, but made it to the end, and I think he got rewarded for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was one measly point in the end, but still, 58 laps on a set of inters, you gotta hand it to him. And on that note, I feel like it is time to wrap up this week's race review. Guys, if you did enjoy, then be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you're new around here. And yeah, see you guys next time. Goodbye.